I haven't been in the office for the Zoom one, so hello and welcome to everybody. Just share my screen. Get rid of that. Like that. So I just was going to give a short update on how user onboarding, our user onboarding work that we shipped a few months ago. So user onboarding, helping our customers try to be awesome. So just to recap, the first thing, the goal of the user onboarding work, it was basically when we shipped the new getting started screen, so that when you had a new empty Octopus instance, that helped people new to Octopus as well as experienced users quickly get up and running as quick and easy as possible. And this shipped in Octopus 3.2. Generally, it was well received. I think we've received some pretty positive feedback just by support. There were one or two minor bugs, one of which was that if you upgraded from an older instance, the way we checked to see if you had completed a successful deployment, thus gotten through the user onboarding process, we didn't detect that correctly. But that's been fixed. Overall, I think it's working quite well. So yeah, so sort of that. But as a follow-up, it's sort of that we've put this in place, but there's a few questions now to ask. Like, number one, how long is it taking our users or the customers to get to that first successful install? And building upon that, how many we're getting per month? Because we know roughly how many trials we do know how many trials we have per month, but how many users who are downloading and starting are getting to their first deployment? I guess the one thing I probably should have mentioned on the last page is that we consider a successful install being getting to their first deployment. That's the point where they sort of grok Octopus and you can start understanding the value, the automation and the benefits of Octopus and deployment automation. So yeah, so those are the two questions. The one thing, it's not ideal, but we weren't tracking any of this information prior to shipping the user onboarding. So ideally, we would have had statistics beforehand, so we had a baseline, but we knew that making this improvement was a good thing. So we sort of thought that, we'll ship that, we'll do it, and then we'll monitor and go forward. So this is sort of building upon that and sharing the information for the first time. So the time to their first successful install, the average or the mean is 18 days. And that's the data set I'm looking at is since we've shipped, and I'll show a bit more on that. But so on average, people are getting to that point within 18 days, which is, I think, really good. The median, so that middle value, is 12 days. But the thing that I really like, I think the mode, so the most common number is less than a day. So people who are starting a trial, and the most common out of all users is day one. Let me try Octopus, let's have a crack, what is this, or I've heard about it, this or that. And they're getting set up, they're getting up and running quickly, which I think is fantastic. So next question was number of successful trials per month. And the first thing is the numbers are a bit fuzzy for this. I was searching through some of our stats, and some of them, we don't have this in report as of yet in Octafront or anything. So I was just sort of digging through things. The numbers aren't perfect, but it is giving a pretty good picture. And if anything, it's indicative. And if we're looking at it consistently, as we can see trends, etc. But so for the year, we get roughly 1,000 trials per month, which is pretty good. And based on our historic knowledge, about half of those turn on anonymous reporting. So we don't know who they are or anything about them, but they do say, I want to share my anonymous statistics. So that's where we get this value, that we know how long it takes them to get to their first install. So half of our trial users. And out of that, so far in the months, so when I've been looking, we've only had a few months so far, but it's about 200 of those, of the 500, are getting to that successful install point. So not having any information prior to this, I think that's pretty good. I guess I was optimistic. I thought it would be higher, but that's a good number to start with. So, and we can move forward from there. Here's the distribution. And so the numbers, the numbers on the left, what is that, the y-axis, is just count. And the numbers along the bottom are like days. So that's day 0, day 1, etc., through all the way up to day 69, which was when I ran this and built it. And so it sort of has a long tail, but it is sort of front loaded. And that builds upon that most, the most common day is that, or most popular day is that first day, which I do think is really good. And if we break that down a little bit, so the very first day, out of everyone, like it is the most common, 15% are getting to that first successful deployment, which is cool. And next one, first week, we hit 39%. So that's out of all the users who are getting to that, that's pretty good. So that first week, people who are starting it, they are doing pretty good. And then first month, it's almost everyone. And then as you look just at the other, it rounds out everybody else who is getting to that point. So there is a spike at the start, and it sort of trails out with everybody else who's still working on it. And to some extent, that makes sense because with our trial, it gets 45 days before they hit the till it reverts to community edition, but they can still keep using it from that point. So the one thing we do after a user has completed their first deployment, and that's our aha moment, that's success, is we congratulate them. So we have a fun little thing they've had progress, they've made their way through, and we got a fun little graphic. And just did this, it's I think a CSS animation or a vector or something, and the balloon bounces, so it's really awesome. And they can click tweet now, and it jumps them into Twitter, and they can just share that information. So how is that tweet doing? How is that little viral thing working? So there's some room for improvement. So this is a screenshot of all the tweets, and one of them is Damo. He did it when he was at Dev Intersection in the States at one of the conferences. So so we've had 5 in this screenshot. In the past week since I took the screenshot, there was another one. So not many people are tweeting. So it could be, there's various reasons it could be, but just statistics on this one, it's we're not setting the world on fire with this first tweet.
Part of that could be the fact that the machine they're running it on, they may not want to sign into their Twitter account on that one.
This is local. So yeah, because they're accessing the server, so it is on their desktop, right. And they do navigate through. So yeah, so that's just what it is.
Enterprises that block Twitter.
Potentially, that could be affecting it. So
we could double that number.
Yeah,
easily double.
10. That's a goal.
So what are the next steps? One of the things I think we talked about in Team Commercial. So that was first quarter for the new people. When we sort of broke up into teams, Team Commercial was focused on some of the business aspects to try and move the needle and build the business a bit more, etc. So one of the things we saw is that anonymous statistics page, it's a opt-out thing. So when you install Octopus through the little wizard, the very last page, very last screen, I think, or one of the last 2 is send anonymous statistics and check for upgrades. There's 2 checkboxes. And from what we're seeing, about half of the people turn that off. We can't get everyone because of security and firewalls and corporate rules, etc. But there's an opportunity where we could improve that little screen just to communicate better what we're using that for. Because a lot of us, if we're a programmer or a developer who is installing it, and we make it clear that we're using that to try and improve the product, we tell them exactly what we're sending. They can see it in a query string, like it's very primitive right now. So if we communicate that better, with sort of had the thought that most likely people would be more open to clicking on it, saying, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. It's just a bunch of counts, and like in this, it's just a time span for how long till they got to their first deploy. So that is a potential next step, and maybe we'll roll that in the next month or so. Another thing we talked about during this process is purely to write about it, to share this information with our community, just on the blog. Jess and myself will probably follow up at that point, or follow up with this. I think there was a good intention to do that sooner, but I know Jess is extremely busy with all the things that are going on at the moment. So I might try and kick that off. Another one, I do think there is sort of two parts to this. First one, there is an opportunity to revisit that tweet, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But the other thing that we had even built in Team Commercial was anytime a user successfully completes their first deployment of a project, any project, we'd show them a little congratulatory page. There's something very simple, like lo-fi, not to annoy them, but give them the opportunity to tweet there as well. So it just is opening that up to more people. And so it's potentially that could improve things as well, and get the message, get Octopus out there a bit more. The final thing is really just to continuing to collect the stats and revisiting them. Currently, I manually just collected all the statistics just with a link pad script. So just looking at the data, but can roll that into Octofront if there's value for that, etc. But if we do see this, or if we want to try and improve things, we can also, there's consultants, there's a main guy, onboarding guy out in the world who we could always follow up. And he does onboarding teardowns on his own website of public things, but you can hit him up and he'll do one on your product with screenshots, analysis, et cetera, So potentially that's a future thing. But yeah, just a bit of fun. What are some new tweet ideas? How could we look at that? Potentially we could present them some options, or change that to try and get a bit more activity. So, the first one, just burned my paper Word doc deployment checklist, thanks Octopus. So that was Shane's idea. I thought that one was really good, but it also ties into Vanessa's talk at ScaleConf in New Zealand. She's talking about how to start deployment automation from scratch. So potentially we could have something like that. Shipping software like a boss with Octopus, boom, that'd be a good one. This is a classic one we say from time to time. It's sort of tongue in cheek, but friends don't let friends right-click deploy. So thanks Octopus. So that one we'll keep thinking about it, and they get better.
You got to add Visual Studio in that.
Yeah. So we have another one in. So another smooth release with Octopus Deploy, and my team doesn't right-click deploy. So potentially it's just another one to reinforce the message that, trying to do things differently. And final one, just Octopus Deploy is part of my delivery tool belt. So just a last one. So I also thought maybe there's an opportunity here for some new hashtag ideas.
Because the world doesn't have enough.
So first, before we get into a possible new one, I was brainstorming, I was bouncing some ideas off Shane, and have some rejected ideas. So it's come to my attention, hashtag rub more DevOps on it. It's very similar to another hashtag out there. I was not familiar with this, so that one we can't use it. It's already being used by someone else. So just leave that one. And DevOps AF, so I think the kids were using this one, and probably not appropriate, and we'll just leave it at that. So you're really doing DevOps maybe, but we'll leave that one. So one of the things, and so those are a bit of fun, but our space is DevOps, and when we tweet, just saying hashtag DevOps could be a good thing. I know when Andrew's been doing a few tweets, he's having a few more hashtags. So DevOps is like that's our space. So is that one, but I thought, for us, especially tying to the sticker, surfer, hashtag dive into DevOps might be a good one. So I like that one. I had some other ones that were rejected, but yeah, so that was because get into it's under the sea. We're an octopus. Dive into DevOps. So let's leave that one there.
You're proud of that one, aren't you?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was fantastic. So we'll keep thinking about it, and well, I think we'll leave it at that. And so, any questions? That's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'll hand over to Mike. Stop sharing.
All right, well done. Hey. Sorry if you're how to use this. Ooh, it's a little bit small, but I'm doing console work. I'm going to attempt to do an interactive demo, and I'd like to say that I'd like to blame my brand new beautiful MacBook Pro's brand new keyboard I'm not used to for my bad typing, but I'm just a bad typist. So if you'll persist with me, we'll get through this. By the way, shout out, beautiful brand new MacBook Pro. It's another good reason to work at Octopus. Anyhow, just trying to make Rob jealous because he hasn't got his yet.
I can barely use this old one.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
Can you make the font bigger?
I'll try.
I think you have to go. It's awkward.
Can you zoom? Well, yeah, I don't want to follow it zoom down.
You have to turn it on a Mac,
There's a font option.
so you can do that. But
There's a font option, and yes, I can make it bigger. Let's see how big we go.
Well, that changed the Windows stuff.
Is that better?
Yeah.
No. Still fuzzy. And we're off to a great start. Yeah.
Old school Zoom.
I can do old school Zoom. I just was hoping to have side by side, so we'll see how we go.
Oh, much.
Much nicer? Okay,
Yes.
so let's see if we get PowerShell to do the same thing. And if I was a super experienced presenter, this would have been done by default. There we go. No, can't see that one. I have to scroll to that one. Alrighty, so over the last couple of weeks, I somehow, I don't even know how I ended up here. What an adventure. But I ended up in a place where I was dog fooding our command line. And I did something like this, and I got angry really quickly because all I'm doing there is running Octopus server. This is 3.13 or something. And I just ran the command on its own, and I get a whole bunch of stuff that is important for us as far as supporting Octopus, bad loading extensions. And then it comes up with red error message, and all I've done was run the exe when I was hoping that it would sort of be a bit nicer to me and as a first experience. And so again, this is in this onboarding space. To be successful with Octopus, if I had to interact with the command line, I'd feel a little bit, like there's a barrier to entry here. Okay, so it's told me there's not an instance, and I need to pass the instance argument with an instance name, but I have no idea what's there. Okay, I need help. Give me help. All right, I got some help. And I'm cheating a little bit because I know there's this list instances command. So I'm going to do that now. List instances. And all right, where's the instance? Can anyone see it? Okay, I've got extensions. I've got environment information now. That came in. I'm glad I have 8 processors. Lovely MacBook Pro. Other people have 8 processors. I've only got, how many memories do we have? 32? No. Oh, sad me. And I've got a temp directory. Oh, here we go. I've got an instance master. So it took me, what's that percentage-wise? That's pretty bad percentage-wise. Instance master, okay. So I'm going to go back up and, oh, here we go. So -- instance equals master. Yippee. Oh, no, I've got the help command again. I'm back here and I've got extensions and help. Okay, let's do something useful. So now I'm going to say that I've got instance master. I'm going to say, what do I want to do? Show master key. What? Now I've got help for the master key. But I just wanted the master key. Okay, so anyway, I was just getting a little bit frustrated trying to figure my way through it. And because I know the command line fairly well, I was able to figure this out and I had to put that first now. Okay, there's the master key. So I guess what I'm saying is that I just used it a little bit and the whole dog fooding thing just made me a little bit upset. Now, the interesting thing here is that I get the master key, but what if I wanted to actually write a PowerShell script to automate this? I'd have to go something like skip all that first stuff and then somehow find them out. I'd probably do a regex, and I'd hash my idea into a regex so nobody could ever use it again. Find that Octopus master key, grab this thing here. But you know what I'd accidentally do? I'd probably grab the new line character by mistake, and now I've got an invalid master key and I didn't realize. But I know that if I put this handy dandy, no console logging switch. Yay, okay, cool. So now I've just got the master key with a new line. So as long as I, in PowerShell, do something like, I don't know, parse it and say -1 on my array of lines, I'm going to be able to get rid of that new line. I'm going to be happy. So I've got a PowerShell script that works, but I'm still not super happy about that. And let's do another example here where I say, go all the way back. What was the other one I want? Show thumbprint. Print. Go. Oh, 2. I've got to put that instance in again. Hopefully I remember what it is. There we go, master, show thumbprint. Yippee, got the thumbprint. No console logging. Did it work? Where's the thumbprint? There's no thumbprint. Okay, so that doesn't work. What else is there? Give me some help. No help. I don't get help. Okay, I just happen to know that if I go thumbprint only, did that work? Oh, there's a dash in there. Is it before the thumb, after the print? I think it's there, isn't it? Yes! I got it. I've got to do the whole get rid of the extra new line again and parse all this stuff out. So I'm sort of trapped in this funny spot. If I want to get the thumbprint, I actually can't get it. Because if I turn off console logging, I never see it, and a few things like that. So anyway, bit of love to go. So now that was running Octopus 3.13. I'm going to clear my command console. The other thing that's interesting in that era is that we write to logs, and that's really nice for support. It's just that we happen to have 2 log files. I don't know if anybody's ever noticed this, but here's a log file over in local app data. And this one here is the fallback. If we don't know what instance of Octopus you're trying to work with, we have to write logs somewhere. And so we write them here. Interesting thing about local app data is it's per user. So it depends on who's running it. And that's actually a bit of a pain in the butt too. So there might be something we can change there and write it to program data or something instead. But an interesting thing here is that if I scroll on right down, we're getting all this mess in here. Sometimes we're getting environment information, sometimes we're getting plugin information, and we're getting these fatal logs. But it's not reliable. What happens is that it's either or. And if it knows the instance, it's going to write all that information into the instance log file. And if it doesn't know the instance, it's going to write it into the local app data one. So I've changed all of that it now writes into both all the time, the interesting information. I'm just going to dive in and do a little bit over here. So on the right-hand side is the log file for the instance that's being tailed in PowerShell. On the left-hand side, with my dirty great big command prompt text, is the local version running on Octopus 3.15 with all this nice stuff in it. And so if I go octopus server.exe and run it, hooray, I get help. And so no angry messages. I didn't know what to do. I just thought I'd start somewhere. Okay, what did we do before? We wanted to say show master key. So let's go show the master key. All right, so now I've got a red message, but it's saying you got to pass instance name, but did you notice down the bottom here it's got available instances? That doesn't highlight well. Is equal to master. So all I've done is just add a little output to say here's all of the instances that are available. So hopefully that makes it a bit easier. So master, I didn't have to know about the list instances command. Oh, there we go. So I've got a nice output here that is literally just standard out is exactly character for character the master key without any extra new lines and extra logging. But did you notice over here that sort of scrolled up a bit? So I think we started at around 1026 if anybody's paying attention. And we've got up here, we've got starting Octopus deploy server version blah on the instance master. We've got the environment information log there, and we've got all the plugin information. We now have a little handy log that says what command was actually resolved. And we've also got the output here. Oh, look at that. We didn't write the master key to the log file. Yes. I didn't regress that one. But I also added a little bit of information about who actually requested the master key and stuff, just for fun. And the master key is written directly to console. So an interesting piece of this exercise was to clean up standard out and standard error. There are two streams on the console that are really interesting for us, and most things like PowerShell and DSC and other command line interactions will parse them or process those streams appropriately. And so what we do now is that if every command kind of knows what its job is, and so show master key is not going to go stuffing up standard out. It just knows I'm intending to write the standard out, so I'll do that cleanly for you. Whereas other commands they're going to be logging some information that's useful, like this one here. So we're going to say database -- instance equals master, and we're going to do an upgrade from the command line. And so that one there knows it's going to write a whole bunch of information. That's okay. So each command knows what its job is with standard out. One of the things I did notice though when I was working in DSC was that if there's a fatal error and you suppress console logging, it also suppressed the fatal error because it was being written to standard out, and we want to suppress that. Now what happens is anything that's error or above will always get written to standard error. And so you've got a few options there. We've also kind of put a whole bunch of tests around this to make sure that the CLI continues to work the same way, because in my interpretation here, as soon as you're writing PowerShell or automation scripts against our CLI, it's our API. It's a public API that people are using. And so I wanted to give it the same amount of love that our other API has as far as compatibility goes. Okay, so we've just done an upgrade. Let's go back here and do something else that's interesting. We did show master key before. Dash key, and I need an instance. One thing that I thought was really nice when I started using Git version is I was upgrading our build scripts, and then you'd run git version exe to sort of interrogate the git log and say, hey, what version should this be according to my git log? And it would write it out in this nice handy dandy string that was formatted for a human. But then I realized you could pass a JSON parameter to it, like a format parameter, and it just spit it out in JSON just to stand it out. And then you can just in PowerShell say, what does it convert from JSON? And all of a sudden you get this PowerShell object that you can interact with as a rich object. I thought that was pretty cool, so I've added that as well. So there you can go format JSON on pretty much anything that comes out, and it's going to switch the formatting to JSON, and you can just parse that immediately up. So a really nice use of that. Unfortunately, I've got to delete my stuff, or I could be smart and just go back and change a command. I want to do list instances. And I'm going to say, I don't need an instance with this, but I'm just going to say format equals JSON. And now I've dumped out a nice JSON array that has all the instances that are installed on the machine. All of a sudden, the light bulb came on for me as far as if I'm automating a multi-instance install, this is pretty essential. I could, as a automation script, I could go and interrogate the registry and figure that stuff out. I don't want to do that. I don't want Octopus to break me. So as a public API, we can continue to support this JSON output, and I can just use it in an automation script. Imagine the day when ODCN launches and we're trying to install and manage multiple instances across servers. We might be able to call it an HTTP API, that'd be great on the agent, but the agent could actually just call out to Octopus server and say, hey, what instances you got installed, and parse the output of that, and that would be a really neat way to do it too. And things like configuration. So we already had this, and this is where part of the inspiration came from. So if we go show configuration, and we say instance equals master, we'll get a JSON format. Ooh, did I do that? Is there no space? Is there no dash?
Configuration.
Oh, do I need to learn how to spell? Is that better? We'll find out in a sec. Yes, it is. So that gives us a flat list, and then we can say hi. Which way does the I go? Hierarchy. Why don't we make this so hard to spell? And that'll give us a nice kind of object model that you can query into. A nice thing about that, again, is that if we're automating these kind of configuration things, and the CLI is the only way we do it, we can interact with this and then run the appropriate configure commands to do it. Another place this exists, and hey, shout, if this is getting boring, I'm just having fun. This is interesting to me. Shout out if it's getting boring because I'll stop. Look at this. Oops. Help me in JSON. Ooh. I got no idea what use this is. Actually, no, I've got some ideas. I don't want to read it as a human, but let me take you over to LinkPad. Artificial intelligence, yeah. So now the help for the general help and the command help, command-specific help are both available in JSON, which is, I think, interesting in a couple of ways. One of them could be for feature detection. So one of the lovely things about our hypermedia API, if you dig into the code of our Octopus client SDK, there's a bunch of places, the main idea of that SDK is we want it to be highly compatible with the widest possible range of Octopus server versions. And rather than doing version detection, we've done that a little bit, we've tried to steer away from it, is that we can actually do feature detection on our hypermedia API by saying, is the channels hypermedia link available? If it's available, all the channels options light up and you can use them. If it's not available, we'll tell you if you try to use them and that the server you're talking to is not compatible. All the way through to multi-tenancy and all these new things we've added, we do through feature detection. So a similar thing can apply here where you're doing Octopus DSC and you want to support Octopus 3 and Octopus 4. Well, you can't do feature detection as easily with the older versions, but these ones you can, and you could say, hey, is the show thumbprint command available? I'll use that, otherwise I'll fall back to some other primitive. The example might be the database command. I'll keep moving on. This little program here I wrote in LinkPad is to automate dumping the help out as our documentation. We've actually got some doc pages that do this, and some poor soul every once in a while gets a help ticket that says, your help's out of date, and then they have to go and dump all this stuff to text file and upload it and update it. I'm not 100% sure why we've got it up there. I'm sure there's good reasons, as in it's findable. You know, people can search for it and get some help. But now that this is out dumping JSON, I can just parse it with this little script, or have a test somewhere that makes sure that our docs are up to date. So that's kind of nice. Wow, that's a huge configuration command. Okay, so that was that. And I can't think what else to show. Oh, actually, just out of interest's sake, if I say database command and I don't quite know what to do with it, I've got to do my instance again. I can actually just go help at any point now. So that looks awful formatting on this size screen, but the intention is that you can now get help from anywhere at any point in time without needing to know the instance. Prior to this, 90% of our commands would fail if you didn't have a default instance installed, and you couldn't even get help to get started because they all depended on the instance being installed. So now we've got an automated test that proves that no matter what command you're running, even the run command, and you go get help, you're going to get help and it's going to work. So I think that's kind of nice too. And the really great thing about that is I can be halfway through doing the configure command with all of my everythings, and it's like 3 lines long, and anywhere in there I can just go -- help. Hello. I can go status MPP. I can go help, and it's going to dump out that help for me, even if I'm halfway through my command, and that's kind of nice too. I think that's it. So it was just a quick tour around some of the things that we've added. We try to do it in a way there's no breaking changes for all you out there who are automating it. Our supported DSC scripts still work. Our installer still works. All those kind of things still work as required. The only things that will be a breaking change for people in Octopus 3.15 is some of those hacks they've had to do to get rid of a new line. They can just delete that couple of characters out of their PowerShell script and that'll work again. So we are suggesting that people test their automation scripts with 3.15 before they upgrade. And I think this has been a good way to pull a Band-Aid off and move forward, because now if you're integrating with Octopus and you're using regex to parse the standard out and ignore a bunch of stuff, I feel like you've chosen to be brittle anyway, whereas now you've got an option to up-level that and be a lot more robust by using JSON outputs as it is. That's it. So cool. Shout out if there's any questions.
That's all very nice.
That's awesome.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
if there is only one instance could we default it?
If it's a default instance, yes, and that's something I need to learn a little bit more about because I only have one instance, but it's not the default instance.
But you're looking for it anyway, because on your help command on the error text, you actually say which one is available. So I wonder if we even bother the user with it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, we can have a look at that. I think we've got some convention, like Henrik was just saying, that the default instance has a hard-coded string of Octopus server or tentacle in the tentacle world. So that's an interesting idea. Yeah. Yeah, kind of makes sense. There is only one. Stop pestering me.
I think it would be rare somebody named their instance instead of using a default.
Yeah, fairly rare. It's probably more going to be us that do that. Or
It's development.
or people like the really advanced users like Avanade who are hosting multiple instances on the same server.
I mean, and just to be sure, I guess for commands that modify things, maybe we would have to, are you sure you want to run these? Yes, no. But apart from that, anything that does listing, if there is only one, just show it to me. Yeah,
that's an interesting thing. We are pretty careful about what we do interactively and what we don't. That was something I didn't actually bring up. If I just go back here and there's some help. Over time, we've introduced, I think it's like 5 switches that all try to do similar things, like thumbprint only, console, no logo. I forgot about that one. No console logging. All of those were in an attempt to clean up standard out. They're all going away because each command knows what it needs to do. There was a chicken and egg problem. There's a bit of not hacky, but difficult code inside our bootstrapper now that has to tries to simplify it for the user, and we just wear the ugliness in our code. And that's to get rid of console. You don't need that anymore because every configure command should run interactively. That's something that you actually had to remember. So if you're writing automation, you got all that stuff right in your F5 PowerShell test, and all of a sudden it was running in DSC. You actually had to add -- console to everything because otherwise it fell back and tried to run as a Windows service host, which didn't work very well. And the Windows service host is only for the run command anyway. So that's now been cleaned up. That'll be in the next patch of 3.15. Yeah.
That's cool.
Sweet. All right. Is anybody else talking today?
I think there was one more.
Yeah, I just had something quickly to.
Sweet. I'll hand over to you.
Okay. So I just wanted to quickly show some of the work we're doing to automate the creation of some test infrastructure. So one of the things that came to light with the work for Java and Linux was that we actually have a lot of combinations that we're going to have to support. So you can imagine that we have RHEL, CentOS, SUSE, Ubuntu, probably Amazon Linux, maybe Debian. Each of them are probably going to have 2 versions that are supported commercially by the people who make the Linux distributions. And they're going to be running Tomcat and Wildfly, and each of them will have 2 versions. So the combinations that we have to validate against and test against starts to get quite unmanageable. And to the point, certainly, where spinning up these environments manually to test them would be far too time-consuming. So to aid with that, we've started to develop some scripts that will spin up test infrastructure for us. So these scripts are written in Ansible, and they're actually executed by Octopus here. So I won't go into too much detail. They take a fair while to run, so I won't actually kick one off. But you can kind of see the logs here that go through the process of creating these instances.
You can't see
and
I think you're showing.
What screen are you looking at?
Your Slack.
Oh, sorry. Let me try and pick the right screen.
# dive into DevOps. It works.
What do you guys? Okay, is this one? You see it now?
We see Confluence.
Some of them.
Confluence.
There we go.
Here's logs.
Okay, so These are the projects set up in Ansible. Oh, sorry, in Octopus Deploy.
Big. Full screen. Here we go.
There we go.
Zoom.
Yeah. I don't know that I can zoom actually.
Sorry, Matt. They haze me as well.
Yeah. So these are the logs. You can see it's a fairly complex process getting everything set up, and certainly for people not familiar with Java who maybe are faced with supporting a ticket at some point, this would be quite a daunting thing to have to go through. But at this point now, we just have literally create a release here. This will create an instance in AWS and configure it up. And then when you're done, you've got an instance you can go in and play with. The Windows half creates an instance of the Octopus server, as well as being configured with Tomcat and Wildfly. And in this case here, we get some default environments set up, and there's some just handy scripting that is supplied by default as part of the Ansible build that will go out, query EC2 for instances that can be added to Octopus. And then at this point, you'll have your environment set up, so you can now go in and create a project and start replicating some steps. So at this point, we only have CentOS and Ubuntu set up as Linux hosts. In future, we'll have to look at the other major distributions as well. But the big challenge was just separating out the differences between the different kinds of distributions. And I think now that we've separated that out for CentOS and Ubuntu, others should fall into place fairly quickly. So if you do, this probably won't occur for a little while, but if you are at a point where you need to start debugging or testing some Linux infrastructure, we will have a fairly robust solution for you, which is literally just jump into Octopus and create a release, and you'll spin up an instance. And that's all I really wanted to show off. It was going to be a quick one today. So if anyone has any questions. No? Okay, cool. That was me.
Anyone else?
That was what was listed.
Nope.
Sweet. Gonna do your sign off.
Okay. # dive into DevOps. See you guys next week.